Men and women of Reddit who caught their significant others cheating. How did you do that? And what was your reaction? My ex-husband and his family smoked a lot of pot. Still do. His sister, kids, and nanny were visiting from out of state for a few weeks. When it was time to fly home, they left their stash at my ex-Mill's house because they didn't want to take it on the plane. My ex asked if I would pick it up because I was nearby. Stupidly I agree. I don't smoke, and I was willing to carry it in my car for him. To my surprise, I found a note from the nanny to my ex saying she was in love with him and she was so happy for the time they had together. Obviously she thought he would get the weed instead of me. While it was incredibly painful at the time, I am definitely living my best life 15 years later. Tell me you didn't give him the weed? Op smoked it all after she smoked the nanny. Worst one I know of is an acquaintance of mine. Came home from work one day and found his missus having sex with his dad. That blew up all over Facebook and became a local drama fest where people tried to organize a shunning of the dad and missus. I remember it well because, well, I know people cheat, but with your partner's father? Come on. That's hard to beat. A guy I know was cheating on his wife and she unexpectedly came home for lunch. They lived on a busy street in a small town. Wife grabbed girlfriend by her long hair and threw her out on the street naked. And that's how the whole town found out. My stepmom did this to her friend that she caught sleeping with my dad. Just wrapped her long hair around her fist a couple times and dragged her down the stairs and out of the house naked. Teen me stayed out of stepmom's way after that. She also found out the babysitter was sleeping with dad too. Babysitter didn't know stepmom knew, and they went shopping one day and my stepmom pushed her in front of a slowing car and broke her leg. Dad got a little pissed about that cause the babysitter also stripped and lived with us, so her income went down. Both babysitter and stepmom were strippers. Being a teen in that house was ducking crazy. My ex-husband was an early adopter of sending dick pics. I got his phone to get the numbers of his friends to invite them to a surprise birthday party while he was sleeping off a hangover, and there they were in his outbox. This was more than 12 years ago, when camera phones were barely functional. I was in the Navy and was out on deployment for 6 months after just recently getting engaged. It's one of those stupid things that young military guys do. One day I get a letter from my fiance's best friend telling me that she caught my fiance and her BF together. This was years before email and smartphones were common. We write back and forth several times and eventually it comes out how she caught them. How my fiance begged her not to tell me, and that the fiance didn't know that we were corresponding. I eventually get back to the States and planned to play it off as though I didn't know, but too many of my friends intercepted me with the news that it wasn't just the one guy, but several, and let me know that she knew that I was aware. Eventually we met, and the confrontation was minimal and tame. We broke off the engagement without a lot of drama. She kept the ring. The best friend and I ended up hooking up. At first a sort of revenge duck kinda thing, but turned serious. We celebrate our 32nd wedding anniversary this year. Edit. Maths. This year will be 31. After 20. It's all a blur. Right on, that's a great ending to a shitty situation. I had some really good friends in the next town over where my girlfriend lived, and they figured it out for me. They were super gentle about it and patient with me through my denial. Those are real friends. There's also a limit to how much real friends should support someone in denial. I broke the news to one of my best friends. His girlfriend had cheated on him with another mutual friend. I was also decent friends with his girlfriend, so this was really tough for me. When he confronted her about it, she denied everything and accused me of making the whole thing up to destroy their relationship. She ended up manipulating him to not trust me at all, making up all kinds of reasons why I didn't want them to be together. In the end he sided with her and destroyed our friendship. I tried for months to convince him, but he was in full denial. Eventually I had to throw in the towel. Haven't talked to him in 3 years since then. Wife was acting unusual for a few weeks. She would want to spend time by herself on the weekends, and when she came home at night from work she would often sit in the driveway for 20 minutes on the phone. I'm not dumb. I bought a voice activated digital recorder and stuck it in her car. I knew what I needed to know in less than 24 hours. We were together for 5 years, living together for around 4. I came home from work early. When I got out of my car I saw her peek through the blinds to see who was outside. I walked in the door to her coworker on the couch, obviously uncomfortable and clothes messy and her locked in the bathroom. I wanted to pummel the shit out of him then and there, but he was a trained MMA fighter, and I Wolder left the house that night with more than a broken heart. Went to a friend's house for a while. They started dating the next day. Shit sucks. It took a while for me to get trust back in relationships. Edit. Her coworker had been to many gatherings, and now I wouldn't beat a woman's ass even though, yes, she was more deserving. Thank you all for the comments. It was 10 plus years ago, and I'm doing good. It's hard to trust anyone after you've been cheated on. Not everyone is the same. Don't let that shit ruin future opportunities. Ruined for me. Pretty hard to trust others, but even harder to have any self-confidence after. I had 4 serious relationships in my 30 years. 3 of them ended up in me being cheated on, one of them being multiple times even. Probability says I'm the common denominator. How can you have any self-confidence after that? That's why I took myself out of the equation and decided to move on relationship free after my last relationship. That one ended for other reasons. My ex was a big drinker and I wasn't. She would frequent this bar close to our place pretty often with friends. I rarely went because I just wasn't a fan of bars or her drinking friends. One night she went out with a couple that I didn't mind that much. I was bored at home, so I decided to head over for a little bit. As I walk in I see my ex sitting at the bar with the couple. The bar was packed, and as soon as I made eye contact my ex she had this strange look on her face. She turns to this guy sitting next to her, and he immediately gets up and leaves. I felt something strange right away, but I brushed it off as me being irrational. I stayed for like an hour and headed home. I couldn't shake the feeling I had though, so I checked one of her friend's Facebook page to see if there was any connection that existed between my ex and this random dude. Sure enough he was friends with one of my ex's friends. I knew his name now, and that I wasn't as crazy as I thought. I sat on the information though. The next weekend she goes out drinking again and still had not returned home at 4 AM. I tried contacting her multiple times, and I got no response. I woke up to her coming home at 7 AM and jumping in the shower immediately. I decided to check her phone while she was in the shower, and she kept all of the messages with this same guy. Some pretty telling information in the text thread. While she was still showering I grabbed a fresh pair of clothes and headed to my best friend's house. 20 minutes later I get a phone call with her going apeshit about me leaving and not saying anything. I laughed at the projection. Told her that if she wasn't moved out by Monday the police would be there to force her out. She wasn't on the lease and her parents lived 10 minutes away from me. That was that. For the rest of you guys, leaving your ex alone in your home while she packs is a great way to have your stuff stolen/trashed. Went for my yearly checkup and tested positive for chlamydia. Turns out my ex was sleeping around. Edit. Apparently false positives are common with these types of tests, so have your SO tested as well. I hope you're in a relationship where you can openly talk about such things. This happened to me too. Then my ex faked a doctor's note with the word negative, yet he was still prescribed antibiotics, just in case. Little did I know that everyone and their mom advises to never take antibiotics unless you really need them. Also, the condom in his wallet was missing, but he insisted he used it with me. I was on the pill. Edit to clarify, I live in BC, Canada, and my experience with doctors and walk-in clinics is they seldomly prescribe you meds unless you have a confirmed diagnosis. It's extremely inconvenient, but let's say I come in with suspected strep. I'll have to take a test, wait for the results, and then make a second appointment to pick up a prescription if the results are positive. Just wanted to share this lovely gem of a SAR regarding antibiotics. Link. B/XRDXNJZHHRW. What a dumb excuse for the missing condom. Calder just said he threw it out because it was old and didn't need it anymore because Op was on the pill. She confessed to her mom. Then mother-in-law called her other daughter and told her. Sister-in-law then called me and told me. She let me listen in on a three-way call to her mom and tried to convince mom to tell me, but she refused, which basically confirmed it. That's a good sill. Yup. 4 years ago I was dating a girl who became distant and disinterested in a lot of things we both enjoyed together. Despite attempts to talk about it, she only grew more distant, then became less available to hang out and suddenly was working late a lot. I started getting suspicious about cheating when she was on her phone non-stop. Again I tried to talk about it, but she wouldn't engage. She also just didn't want to break up with me for whatever reason. I was actually going to end it on my own. But one weekend, when she was seemingly unavailable, some mutual friends told me they spotted her with a dude from her work and they were all over each other. Coincidentally, she had also lent me her iPad, and it was synced to her phone, so I saw lots of texts between those two over that weekend. They were talking about running away together, etc. He was married and her supervisor. Mutual friends were also composed of her coworkers and reported them to ours. They were both forced to do training on not sleeping with coworkers. They were both denied promotion. His wife left him, and she moved overseas. Sucked at the time. I was devastated, but karma got them good. What does that training even include? A single yes/no question asking, is it okay to duck coworkers? I know you were kidding. But there isn't usually anything wrong with coworkers having a relationship if the relationship is peer-to-peer. The issues happen when there is a power imbalance. For example, two servers at a cafe dating usually isn't an issue. But if a server starts dating the manager, the person who controls the roster, pay rises, mediates disputes etc., then there is potentially an issue. To the best of my knowledge. And please, if anyone knows differently, let me know. It's illegal to stop people from dating at work. Just heavily discouraged because it is so easily exploited. I owned a house with my fianc. I woke up in the middle of the night and he wasn't in bed. I went searching. His truck and another vehicle were in the driveway. Then, I went upstairs and found the guest bedroom was locked. After barging my way in, I found him with another woman in bed. That bed happened to be my childhood bed. He forced me out of the room. Literally grabbed me by the neck and pushed me out and closed the door back. I knew I couldn't do anything at that point. So I called his parents who lived a few blocks away. His dad showed up and another fight broke out. I ended up leaving and staying at his parents until dawn. I moved out that weekend and let the house foreclose. 9 years later, it's finally off my credit report. I'm happily married to an amazing man, and we own a beautiful home together. The husband of one of the women he was cheating on me with called me at work. At first I didn't believe him and hung up. How could the man I spent the past 8 years with, had 2 beautiful babies with, suffered together the loss of one of those children do something so hurtful? Still a part of me had doubt. He had affairs and other relationships, and we had a rocky patch early in the beginning where I suspected an affair, but didn't have proof. I told my boss I felt sick and had to leave early, and I called this guy back and found out that my ex and his wife along with one of their friends were all sleeping together for about a year. He had confronted my ex and told him that he was going to tell me, but my ex convinced him to wait a month since my mother had just died. I took my time coming home and confronted him and told him to pack and leave. Since I've pieced together a lot of what happened and all the lies he told me where, if I was in a different headspace I might have caught onto the affairs earlier. I also found videos hidden on one of our computers and found out he was having booty calls in our apartment while I was at work and he was watching our daughter. At that point it put the headstone on any possibility of reconciliation. Hey, thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe.